The U.S. Coast Guard announced a record-breaking achievement at Port Everglades. There, under the state's persistent sun, a significant chapter in maritime law enforcement history was being written. On the docks, pallets laden with compressed bricks of narcotics were methodically offloaded, a visual testament to a large-scale multinational counter-drug operation. The United States Coast Guard announced the conclusion of a series of at-sea interdictions, culminating in the single largest drug offload in the service's history. With a street value of almost $500 million, the seizure dealt a huge financial loss to the drug cartels that tried to smuggle it. The meticulously cataloged haul consisted of approximately 61,000 pounds of cocaine and another 14,000 of bulk marijuana. These substances, intercepted in the maritime transit zones of the Eastern Pacific, were destined for distribution networks that fuel violence, instability, and public health crisis across the hemisphere. This offload was not the result of a single seizure, but the aggregate of numerous successful interdictions conducted over several months by a coalition of U.S. and allied naval and law enforcement assets. The scale of the cocaine seizure alone is difficult to comprehend. Officials stated that the 61,000 pounds represents an estimated 23 million potentially lethal doses, a quantity sufficient to fatally overdose the entire population of the state of Florida. This stark calculation underscores the critical nature of maritime interdiction as a primary line of defense, intercepting threats long before they can reach shorelines and communities. The strategic imperative driving these operations is clear. Approximately 80% of all illicit narcotics seized by the United States are confiscated at sea. This reality places the U.S. Coast Guard, operating under its unique blend of military and law enforcement authorities, at the forefront of the nation's counter-drug strategy. As a component of the Department of Homeland Security and one of the nation's 6 armed forces, the Coast Guard is uniquely positioned to project authority into the maritime domain, securing the nation's borders and approaches against a wide spectrum of threats. These threats are not limited to narcotics trafficking, but extend to the activities of foreign terrorist organizations and other criminal syndicates that exploit the vastness of the oceans to move contraband weapons and personnel. The revenue generated from drug trafficking is the lifeblood of these organizations, funding their operations and enabling the proliferation of other deadly substances, including synthetic opioids like fentanyl. This record-breaking offload was the tangible result of Operation Pacific Viper, a dedicated surge operation designed to enhance interdiction efforts in the Eastern Pacific Ocean. The operation's primary objective is to detect, disrupt, and dismantle the maritime logistics chains of drug trafficking organizations originating primarily from South America. In close coordination with international and inter-agency partners, the Coast Guard surged additional assets, cutters, surveillance aircraft, and specialized tactical law enforcement teams into this critical transit zone. The strategic goal was to apply persistent pressure on smuggling routes, increasing the risk and cost for traffickers, and ultimately degrading their capacity to operate. Operation Pacific Viper represents a key component of a broader whole-of-government approach aimed at stemming the flow of illicit drugs by sea, thereby weakening the powerful cartels that profit from this trade. The command and control structure underpinning such a complex undertaking is critical to its success. Joint Inter-Agency Task Force South GIATFS, headquartered in Key West, Florida, serves as the central nervous system for detection and monitoring operations. GATFS is a multi-agency international fusion center responsible for collating intelligence from a vast network of sources to build a coherent operational picture of illicit trafficking in the air and maritime domains. Their mission is to identify and track suspect vessels and aircraft. Once a target is identified and its vector is established, GATFS coordinates the allocation of interdiction assets. In this operational model, GATFS builds the intelligence picture and passes actionable targeting information to assets on the water, primarily U.S. Coast Guard cutters and U.S. Navy vessels with embarked Coast Guard law enforcement detachments, LEDITs, who then execute the endgame, the physical interdiction, boarding, and seizure of the contraband and the detention of the smugglers. The success of this recent campaign was a direct result of this collaborative framework. The offload at Port Everglades was largely credited to the crew of the Coast Guard cutter Hamilton WMSL 753, a Legend-class national security cutter. Over a demanding 2-month deployment, the Hamilton served as the lead vessel, conducting numerous interdictions. However, the operation's success was not a solo effort. The Hamilton operated as part of a task force that included a potent mix of U.S. and allied platforms. This force included the U.S. Coast Guard cutters Diligence WMX 616 and Vigilant WMX 617, both medium-endurance cutters that serve as workhorses of the fleet. Further augmenting the task force were U.S. Navy assets including the Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers USS Colwall DDG-67 and USS Milius DDG-69. The presence of these powerful naval warships highlights the seriousness of the mission and the seamless integration between the Navy and Coast Guard in executing national security objectives. The international dimension of the operation was represented by the HNLMS Friesland, an ocean-going patrol vessel from the Royal Netherlands Navy. This Allied participation is crucial as it extends the reach and legal authorities of the coalition, allowing for operations across a wider geographic and jurisdictional area. This combined force of U.S. Coast Guard, U.S. Navy, and Dutch naval assets worked in concert, sharing intelligence and coordinating movements to achieve a level of effectiveness that no single agency or nation could accomplish alone. The final tally from this concerted effort was immense. The offload consisted of more than 27 metric tons of cocaine and nearly 16,000 lb of marijuana. The sheer volume of narcotics stacked on the pier in Port Everglades served as a stark visual representation of the operational success. For the crew of the cutter Hamilton, this offload marked a new Coast Guard record for the largest single offload by one of its vessels, a testament to their proficiency and endurance during their extended patrol in the Eastern Pacific. Following seizure, the narcotics are turned over to federal agents for evidentiary processing and eventual destruction, while the detained smugglers face prosecution in U.S. courts. The strategic assessment of Operation Pacific Viper's recent successes extends beyond the impressive statistics. Each interdiction represents a significant disruption to the operational and financial stability of transnational criminal organizations. The loss of a multi-ton shipment of cocaine is not merely a cost of doing business. It is a catastrophic financial loss that impacts a cartel's ability to pay its members, purchase weapons, and corrupt officials. By persistently targeting these high-value shipments, U.S. and allied forces impose a tangible risk penalty on traffickers, forcing them to alter routes, adopt less efficient methods, and expend more resources to protect their product. This sustained pressure is designed to dismantle the very business model that allows these criminal enterprises to thrive. The operation effectively serves as a crucial choke point, severing the link between the drug production zones in South America and the distribution markets to the north. The ultimate outcome is a direct contribution to national security, safeguarding communities from the destructive impact of these deadly substances and weakening the criminal organizations that threaten regional stability. In summary, the results of this concerted effort were immense. With the offload consisting of more than 27 metric tons of cocaine and nearly 16,000 pounds of marijuana, the sheer volume of narcotics served as a powerful visual of the operation's success. And for the crew of the cutter Hamilton, it marked a new Coast Guard record for the largest single offload by one of its vessels. However, the strategic impact of Operation Pacific Viper extends beyond these impressive statistics. Each interdiction represents a significant disruption to the financial stability of transnational criminal organizations. The loss of a multi-ton shipment is a catastrophic blow that impacts a cartel's ability to fund its entire operation. By persistently targeting these high-value shipments, U.S. and allied forces impose a tangible risk on traffickers, aiming to dismantle the very business model that allows them to thrive. This operation serves as a crucial choke point, severing the link between production zones and distribution markets, directly contributing to national security and safeguarding communities from the destructive impact of these deadly substances.